Welcome back from the commercial break. I'm Jackie Lingla, as always, your host on the Financial High here every Monday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And as we explore the impact of money on Ugandan politics, why is Ugandan politics expensive from term to term? And now with me, I'm with Mr. Wazala Martin, the Executive Director of African Youth Development Link. And earlier on, you've been explaining to us the patronage. Of course, I know there's some Ugandans who are watching us tonight who might not know the term. In terms of governance, of course, there is no way you can split patronage and corruption. But could you just explain to us, what is patronage?
Well, to be honest, there's no simple way of explaining what patronage is, but if I may try, I think, in my opinion, patronage is a system or a mechanism where money or substance is used as a tool to gain access to, control, manipulate and influence the decisions, the actions and inactions of a person or a group of persons for the benefit of the one that is controlling them.
Okay, so how is the high cost of politics influencing these systems where loyalty is actually, where support is bought and loyalty is prioritized over service delivery? In simple terms, how is this, for example, you say the nominations are being, the price of the nominations is being escalated from term to term. How is this affecting the patronage system in Uganda? Or even before we get to that, do we have one in Uganda? How does it operate?
We do. We do have one. Patronage exists in Uganda. And like I mentioned earlier, I've seen bits of it on both sides of the political divide. But it is way more pronounced on the side of the government. Like I mentioned, for example, you'll forgive me, I'll use more the youth example.
Okay.
If you look at one of the biggest challenges we had with the National Youth Council system, for example, it's a good structure. It's a good system. And if it is made or given the opportunity to work, it can absolutely work wonders in as far as enabling the voice of the young person to, push through right from the grassroots to the national level, because it is premised or designed alongside the national local government structure, meaning from the village to the national to the parliamentary level, that system is there.
Okay.
Young people are represented at different levels. But the way the council works is it is a closed kind of, and so not everyone votes.
Okay.
Not everyone votes the guys who go to that council, and the guys who go into that council are the ones that from whom the national college or the electoral college for both the national youth MP female and the regional youth MPs, they are constituted from that college, rather from that council. So and so that means that the people who are choosing or selecting the MPs who are representing young people in parliament and are few, a few selected people or a few elected people. But like I mentioned, the way they're elected is in itself a closed, a bit of closed. One of the ways it is closed is because, or rather, is through limited information sharing, where not so many are known. Rather, not so many know that this system exists, okay. And those who have the money and know usually take advantage of that and get their people into that space, because then quite a number of interests are managed through that. And so patronage enables those that have the money to control and manipulate that system. Because if you, like I shared with you earlier, if you need the money to participate in this process, to participate in politics, and I have the money, and I give you the money, so that you are able to, in a way, depending on the nature of the agreement between me and you, in a way, I control. You become a puppet candidate. Absolutely. In a way, I have leverage over you, over the things that you. So in a way, I decide what you are going to do and what you're not going to do. I decide the direction of the things that you do. You're going to feel indebted to this person for where you are. Okay. And so that in itself affects the quality of the leadership, the quality of even participation, because it means that those that maybe would be capable are not able to access those spaces, but only those that can afford, or those that can be supported by those who can afford, can be able to participate in that space. Okay, what institutional changes or policy reforms can be implemented to reduce the cost of politics in Uganda? There are many, but for now I'll talk about two that in a way are interrelated. The first and the primary one is legislation. That money in politics can only be dealt with through legislation. Not only, but can majorly be dealt with through legislation by effecting changes within the law. Because the very changes that introduced more money requirements in politics, some of the money requirements in politics are etched within the law. For example, the question of nomination fees, as I mentioned, it's a requirement within the law. The law initially required less amounts of money, 200,000 for MPs, I think 5 million for presidential candidates, only for it to be revised upwards later to 3 million for MPs and then 20 million for presidential candidates. So the way we deal with that is by, again, now touching the law and saying, you know what, I think whatever it is that we envisaged when we were revising this law to increase the nomination fees hasn't been achieved, because 15 years down the road I don't think we have achieved better quality leadership because of the money. I don't think so. If anything, some of the people that have been documented as better performing leaders within the current setup were people who joined politics without money, without not so much money. And so we need to go back to the drawing board. Mine is to implore our leaders in Parliament, because they're the ones who make the laws for us, to implore them to just see the sense of reason in what we are saying, and explore the possibility of revisiting the decision they made to increase and reduce that requirement, reduce the amount of money required for nomination for both presidential and parliamentary elections. Number two, slightly related to that, has to do with enforcement, strengthened enforcement of the law. especially, okay, what I didn't mention about legislation is just legislation deals with the issue of nomination, but legislation also can give us the opportunity to introduce penalties for those that use money to for lack of a better word, I would borrow one of the words used by one of the politicians, to bastardize our political processes. And so we need to introduce penalties for those that bribe voters, that buy voters, those that patronize voters using money and all these things. And then that brings me to the second issue of strengthened enforcement, empowering the institutions, empowering financially the institutions that are responsible for enforcement of the laws, to be able to actually enforce the laws we have introduced, to enforce the penalties. Because as it is now, today, one of the biggest problems is, limited or selective, application of the law, which in a sense or in a way is slightly fueled by corruption. So if we can have penalties for corruption and penalties for commercialization, then enforcement of those, because having the law is one thing, but then getting the law to work is another. So we need to ensure that there is strengthened enforcement for the law to be seen to work. Because again, in other contexts that we have studied, talk about Uganda, talk about Ghana, talk about Malaysia. All these plus so many others have made corruption extremely expensive, for those that would want to engage in it. Okay. Yes.
So how can the media, the civil society and citizens work together to ensure that we hold officials accountable when it comes to their campaign expenses?
That's a good question. I think the primary strategy is sharing information. We need to be able to share information with one another, because but maybe before we share the information, we need to be deliberate to collect credible information, credible data, that then, or evidence for that matter, that then we get to use to advocate, to engage with those that either are culprits or those that are supposed to rein in on the culprits. Yeah. So information is key. Collaboration in terms of working together in both organized spaces and invited spaces would be another way of civil society, media and other actors working together to ensure that that happens. And also, lastly, I think the issue of dialogue is key, because we have seen confrontation is good, but I think more can be achieved if we can be able to talk to each other, both as media and civil society, but also with the government, because there is nothing we are going to change without the input or without the support, the commitment of the government. In fact, even when it comes to collecting the evidence that I talked about, government becomes key, because the agencies that are in charge or charged with the responsibility of getting this evidence are on the other side. And so working or dialoguing together with government is extremely important, because they are the ones that hold the duty.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are the consequences if this issue of expensive politics is not addressed? What are the consequences, and how can the risks be mitigated?
If this is not addressed, I think one of the consequences is money in politics fuels corruption. It is going to make corruption look normal. Because when I give you money so that you can be able to vote for me or so that you can be able to support me, it looks like an innocent gesture. But it is corruption because I'm buying you off. I'm giving you money in exchange for something that I'm giving you. I'm getting something from you in exchange for money, when whatever I'm getting from you is supposed to be free. Yeah, and then two, why I think it's going to fuel corruption is that the politicians, it kind of promotes investment politics, where politicians feel that whatever money they are giving out is an investment, that then they are going to that is going to push them to target public resources as a means through which they are able to recover the money they invested. And the only way they can do that is by embezzling or engaging in other corrupt tendencies to get their money back. And then two, one of the other implications would be that it makes voters targets for patronage, for example, that I talked about. It turns voters into tools that then politicians think they should target and use for their own benefit.
The intended outcomes.
Absolutely. And three, of course, like we mentioned earlier on, it will ultimately affect the quality of service delivery once these people are into the offices that they're supposed to be. The quality of service delivery is affected because of the corruption I talked about earlier on. And so the way we deal with this is one I think we need what one of my colleagues usually likes terming as conscientization, where we get the masses or the people to education programs, like educative programs like this one, can be leveraged to get the people to know that, look, whatever it is that you think you're benefiting from this whole thing is not actually the benefit. You are digging your own grave, because this person is giving you 10,000 today, 100,000 today, but that you're going to pay that 100,000 with a bigger price once this person gets into office, yes. Because then they are going to do things that you'll be hesitant to hold them accountable on, because then they bought you, they gave you, and so they're going to ask you, where do you think I'm going to get the money?
In the short run, you're silenced for the long term.
Absolutely, absolutely. You're made vulnerable. You're vulnerable. You're silenced. Okay. So to speak. And so I think getting the masses to appreciate the fact that we need to move away from money politics to issue-based politics, and that's one of the things we've been really passionate about, which we are trying to address through what we call the National Youth Manifesto initiative, where we collect issues of young people, which we want, to be the basis for support and not the money that is provided.
Okay, as we are winding up, could you just give us a few steps that the Uganda leadership should take to ensure that we have more inclusive political campaigns, and also ensure that the financial barriers towards the women especially and the youths are reduced in the long run to make sure that there is a fair political engagement in the country?
I've talked about some of them, but I'll just address them again. One of these, like I mentioned, is legislation. I think the government needs to focus on getting the law on the side of good, on the side of right. It doesn't benefit anybody, or it doesn't benefit the country in the long run.
So we should pick a leaf from countries like Kenya, because you mentioned about the quota system.
Yes.
Selection.
Absolutely, absolutely. That could be another yardstick or another benchmark that we can use, even as we legislate. Even as we legislate, we need to pick benchmarks from other places that have worked. That maybe you may not necessarily reduce the nomination fees for everybody, because then there are those that can afford the high. But then you do what we call affirmative action, where you introduce quotas for those that can't afford, and there can be a criteria that is established that is used to establish who can't afford and who can.
Such that everyone is represented.
So that everyone is able to participate.
Okay.
Without you do the UN SDG way of leaving no one behind. Okay. That everyone should be given equal opportunity to participate. They can fail the other side if they are not able, but that's okay. The most important bit is you've given them the chance to participate. They won't blame you. Yeah. And so yes, so legislation is key. Two, I think it touches what you mentioned. We need to benchmark. We need to take time to study and to study what others are doing, but also even listen to what consult the people. What works for them? Is it the patronage that we have? Is it the established status quo of the high fees, or it can be it can be addressed through the means we have talked about? Then of course dialogue with the relevant stakeholders. I talked about, for example, the idea of high cost of media as one of the financial impediments. And so I think you may not necessarily force the hand or hamstring the media proprietors, but you can engage with them. Okay. Dialogue with them in a meaningful way that helps them appreciate the value, the long-term strategic value of making media affordable in a sort of affirmative action way for all these groups of people.
Okay, could you just give your closing remarks in 1 minute to the viewers who are watching us tonight?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. As a way of closing, I want to take this opportunity again to, first of all, thank you for the opportunity and the station for letting us, be part and parcel of this conversation, for always, opening doors for us to be able to speak to the nation, to, make a case for the young people, for the marginalized groups, the women, the people with disabilities and all. But also too, I want to take this opportunity as we close to again continuously implore our leaders, especially those in Parliament, to consider the possibility of introducing legislation that is going to help us address the issue of money in politics, because money in politics, like I mentioned earlier, is becoming, the problem is becoming worse and worse and worse, and we are setting a bad precedent for the generations and generations that are going to come, and we won't like the implications in the long run.
That is well said by the Executive Director of African Youth Development Link, Mr. Martin Wazala. Jackie Lingla, as always, as we explore more of what money is affecting this time around, we've chosen politics and how money is affecting our democracy as a country. Stay tuned on Rest TV till next time every Monday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. or here on the Financial Eye. And stay tuned on Rest TV for more. Have a very good evening.
The Financial Eye, making finance clear, no complicated terms.